Hello and welcome to our session on the hidden power of pictures, affectionately known as HPOP. I'm Amber Parks, the Director of Writing with Design, and thank you so much for joining us. When we talk about wanting to grow our children's vocabularies and writing skills, it seems like such a daunting task. There's so much time involved and the feeling of I don't want to write and how long does it have to be? And this activity is one of the easiest and fastest and most powerful ways of working on vocabulary and writing development. And it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes a day. So let's get started with the hidden power of pictures. The very first thing that we're going to talk about is just the general guidelines of how to go about doing HPOP. We want to just take a look at a particular part of speech one per day over the course of 4 to 5 days. So nouns will be on Monday. We're going to look at adjectives on Tuesday, verbs on Wednesday. So really just 3 parts of speech right now. And then Thursday and Friday will be days that we spend creating sentences. So we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about what these look like. So you are clear on what types of words will work in each of these different sections. And the last tip before we begin is that you want to have 4 different colors. So we want our nouns to be in a certain color. We want adjectives to be in another. And this just allows for students and our children to be able to see what each color is indicating, and that each color is indicating a different part of speech. So all you need to get started is a picture. And this is a picture coming from the story The Mat by Nadine Bernard Westcott, but any picture will do. It can come from a children's book, it can come from your photo gallery, it can come from an old calendar, it can come from a Google search for silly dog pictures. Whatever you'd like to use as the picture to label, that's perfectly great and okay. What we encourage, though, is that you just rotate between lots of different types of pictures. So you can think about traditions and holidays and special events that are coming up as some that would be really exciting for students to label. Certainly doing anything from personal lives of pictures of family or get-togethers is always meaningful for students. And then we love to do silly pictures just to lighten the mood and have a great time and laugh at pictures. And lastly is to bring it into academics. So what are they studying in science? And what about in social studies? Where can we pull in a picture label to help build academic vocabulary? So our step 1 is to label nouns. And we simply do that by asking the question, what do you see in the picture? And so as a family or as a class, we're going to go around and just label the nouns. So in this case, you're seeing lots of nouns pop up. So the words are written around the outside of the picture, and then lines are drawn onto the picture all the way to what it is that we're talking about. If it's plural, like the word curtains, we want to make sure that we draw at least 2 lines just to help everyone know what it is that we're talking about. And if it's plural, that there's going to be more than one in the picture. So it just helps drive home that point that plural means more than one. Now, when you begin doing HPOP, we encourage that you just do about 3 to 4 nouns. But as you get going with this, you can certainly do more as you're seeing in the picture here. And that really is the end of day 1. It's a very simple day. It's a fast day. And so sometimes you might want to move on to a little bit of step 2. But at the beginning, you can certainly just stop here and be proud of the nouns that you've labeled in the picture. One note on this, please make sure that you aren't capitalizing any of the nouns. So barn and cat and lady, they don't need capital letters at all in this activity, and really be conscious of that anytime that we're writing, because we want to be purposeful with capitalization, and words by themselves don't need to be capitalized unless they're proper nouns. So let's move on to our step 2, and that's to add adjectives. So the way that we get our children to give us adjectives is we ask, what do you notice about? Tell me about the barn. What do you notice about it? Tell me about the table. What do you notice about that? And let them give you describing words. So we've given you some categories to consider, like quantity, how many of them, the size, is it large, is it small? What's the texture? How does it feel? The shape, the weight, or the purpose of it. And then you can certainly pull in some like color that students and our children are really good at telling us. So you'll see them start to pop in here. And what you'll notice too is that we're putting articles. So this is really important for all children to just make sure that we're giving them these extra, what we call mortar words in English. So there's really no way to draw a picture of the word the, but it's really important to have in a lot of parts of sentences. So at the end of day 2, when we're working on adjectives, we're going to go around and read all of the phrases because we want to put our adjectives and nouns together. And notice that we have our adjectives in front of the nouns, which is also a new habit for our brains and our writing. So let's go around and practice these. I'll say it, and I'd like you to repeat it after me. The yellow curtains, the wooden table, a clean mat, the old red barn, her muddy cat, the busy lady, her useful broom. Wonderful. And we call that write out loud because what we know is that if our mouths are saying it, our brain is thinking it. And so it becomes a wonderful way of helping our students learn how to craft really strong language. And speaking and writing are two sides of the same coin. So if we can get our children to use this impressive language to put adjectives in front of nouns like this, instead of saying the barn is old and red, but instead to say the old red barn, then by the oral language practice, it will transfer over into the written language. We also have here a resource for you on all different types of adjectives and also in the common order that we use them in English. So this can be really helpful as students are learning and growing in their English skill sets because sometimes their adjectives might be out of order. And to a native English speaker, they might be able to tell that it doesn't sound quite right, but not be able to explain why. And so now we have this chart to be able to say, oh, you know what? I think it needs to go appearance, then speed before, and not the other way around. So this is what we call a classifying design because we are sorting the different types of adjectives. So instead of saying ancient zooming mummies, I don't know if mummies would zoom. Let's see, let's say brand new, well, instead of saying zooming brand new jets, it doesn't quite sound right. We'd say brand new zooming jets. And that's because we want to make sure that appearance always comes before speed. Okay. I know I have a mummies one down below. So that one is another good example. 3 repulsive ancient mummies. It goes quantity. Repulsive would be opinion or an emotion regarding it, an emotional response to it. And then ancient would be the appearance, how old it is, right? Now, if we switch those around, you can tell that it doesn't sound right. If we said ancient 3 repulsive mummies, something doesn't sound right. So again, this classifying design is wonderful at not only giving you all of the different categories of adjectives that we use in English or that exist in describing, but it also puts them in the proper order so that we make sure that the writing flows and that it's in an order that that is proper in English. Appearance and sensory have some subcategories. So you'll see on this slide and the following one that we have it broken down even further. So appearance can be length, height, size, and dimension, weight, temperature, age and time, or shape. And sensory, well, there's 5 senses, so here they are for you. And we really want our children to be able to give us descriptions from all of the 5 senses. So again, this is the classifying design. It's one that we use anytime that we want to sort and organize and group information. So we finished our step 2. We have all of our adjectives in front of our nouns and we've practiced reading them. So that's the end of day 2. So now we're going to move on to our verbs. And what we do to get our verbs, this would be our Wednesday, if we're going one step by day or each day, if we're going to ask, what did blank do? What did the old red barn do? What did the muddy cat do? And sometimes there may not actually be an action. That's okay. We don't have to have a verb for everything. But what we do have to make sure of is that we don't have verbs that end in ing. Okay, we don't want to be in the perfect tenses. So the old red barn was standing or the yellow curtains are flapping. We don't want verbs that end in ing. Why? Because it's just weak writing and it's a passive voice. So we want to make sure that our writing is active. And I always like to practice the past tense because it is also the trickiest in English. So you'll see that I've switched colors and now we're adding our verbs to all of our adjective and noun combos, almost all. Didn't do one for the mat, although we certainly could add one, but just to demonstrate that you don't have to have a verb for every single one. And so this is a great opportunity as a parent or as a teacher when you aren't quite sure, is it standard or is it stood, that you can go and do research online and say, what is the past tense of, and demonstrate to students and to your children that we're going to use all of our amazing resources on the internet to help us in a wonderful way. So if we type in what is the past tense of stand, it's going to provide the word stood. So it's a wonderful way, again, to kind of remind ourselves or teach ourselves and also our children all the past tense conjugations of verbs.